Jim. Yeah, we sadly see all too often racism in football across the world. Still, we have players who stand up and speak out. We have players who try and ignore it. We had Kevin Prince Boateng playing for Milan in Italy just last year. He decided to walk off the pitch midway through a match. And we had a player in Spain on Sunday who decided to tackle the issue with some humour, and I have to say he's made his point incredibly well indeed. Barcelona and Brazilian defender Dani Alves was preparing to take a corner when a banana got thrown at him, and without skipping a beat, he picked up the banana, peeled it, and he decided to take a bite before carrying on with the action and delivering that ball into the box. Afterwards, he said he felt that if you don't give these things importance, those who try to make a point don't achieve their objective. It was a very poignant moment. A lot of people have picked up on it. And Alves himself tweeted afterwards, "My father always told me, son, you should eat bananas to avoid cramps. What about that? Ha, ha, ha." Neymar, one of his fellow Brazilian and Barca teammates, also posted a photo of himself and his son holding up bananas, says, "We are all equal, we are all monkeys, say no to racism," using the hashtag, in fact, "We are all monkeys." And a number of other players and people within the football community have done the same. But perhaps the most disappointing thing about this, Jim, is that whilst Barcelona have released a statement, the club themselves condemning what happened from their supporters, saying that they are going to chase them out, the Spanish football authorities really aren't saying anything at all. And interestingly, the Spanish media haven't picked up on this story as other international media have. They see it as part of their game that maybe isn't accepted, but it's tolerated as things stand.
Valencia. Ojo, ¿qué ha pasado ahí? ¿Qué ha pasado ahí? ¿Qué ha ocurrido ahí? Bueno, está Godín que se va a comer a Diop. Está Godín que se va a comer a Diop y se tiene que llevar a Arda Turán a Diop. Ahí viene esa montonera de jugadores. Vamos a ver si todo el mundo es capaz de calmarse. Vamos a ver si todo el mundo es capaz de calmarse. Y que tengamos la fiesta en paz. Se lleva Diego Costa Papedió, poniendo paz ahí. Lo ha hecho perfectamente el Pichichi del Atlético de Madrid. Enfadadísimo Diop, parece que por algo que le han dicho desde la grada.
Subscribe to the channel for more updates. See you in the next video.
Comes to these situations, oh, it's just a minority. But what we just heard there from the Metropolitano, that can't be just a minority tonight. We could clearly hear what was being shouted.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because, sorry, Shaq, I appear to have
go ahead, Sid, because then we'd like to go to Shaka about it.
Go ahead, Sid.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, it's difficult because obviously on one level, in a way, I suppose, it sort of doesn't matter if it's one person or 100 people or 10,000 people. On one level, it doesn't matter. But of course, that does make a difference. And as you say, of course, it is significant or feels more significant when it's bigger numbers. Outside the ground, it's very difficult to judge how many of those fans were chanting and calling Vinicius a monkey. The first time he got the ball, there were whistles around the ground. Now, that, by the way, is standard for all players. There were whistles around the ground, but within those whistles, it's very difficult to discern this clearly, and I'm always very reluctant to do so because I don't hear things very clearly in stadiums. But it seemed to me that there was some monkey chants in with those whistles the first time. And from then on, it didn't really happen. As you say, there was then the moment in the second half when he tried the rainbow flick, and the chants around the stadium were stupid, stupid. So it wasn't focused on race, but obviously it was focused on Vinicius after he tried to do that rainbow flick. And as you say, I mean, in a way, one of the things that's sort of so depressing about this is that this has been it's been kind of created over a week of building something up that sort of really wasn't an issue. The question about whether he celebrates by dancing, well, let him celebrate. Whether he plays in a way that winds people up, okay. But then why does that need to segue into the criticism of him becoming focused on race, becoming focused on colour, becoming focused on nationality? It's really, truly depressing. And one of the most depressing things about this is, in truth, and I hate saying this, in truth, this wasn't enormously surprising tonight. From some people, not from everybody, from some people. But again, as I say, it kind of doesn't matter if it's 1 or 100 or 10,000.
Yeah, and obviously it's not just in the Metropolitano. We've heard this in other stadiums as well. I've actually been in stadiums in Spain and heard this myself during my time there. Your reaction to what Sid's just said, Shaka, and what we've seen tonight?
Listen, I think everything that we witnessed is sad, and you want to hope that we're moving past this, and then every time you think that you may be or progress is being made, you're saved these very harsh reminders. And now, I think the game in itself lacks both individual and collective responsibility. On the one hand, as Sid points out, one of the excuses is it's just a small minority. It's just aimed at Vinicius. If it were really about race, and only about race, then Rudiger and Tchouameni would suffer the same abuse. I've heard every single excuse there is, yet I'm yet to witness any real progress. And I say the entire ecosystem feeds into this racism. And I say that for a very specific reason. And Sid was listening to what Sid said and how we addressed it, and addressing the role that the media plays or can play in building up this issue to what it was, or addressing the response to it. Koke, in doing an interview before the game, was pressed about Vinicius and his celebration. Again, as Sid points out, leaning into that victim blaming. It's Vinicius needs to stop dancing. He plays in a way that antagonizes others. That's victim blaming. And then the media feeds into this. In talking to Koke about how Vinicius celebrates, Koke answers in a sensible way, and the journalist asking the question keeps pressing about the fan response and what he expects it to be like. And while Koke could have batted that question away and maybe addressed it better, he feeds into, he takes the bait and feeds into the responses that you saw in the Metropolitano today. But then, Atletico Madrid bears a real responsibility. Florentino Perez banned the Ultras at Real Madrid. For some reason, Atletico haven't followed suit. La Liga have been far too soft in how they approach the individual clubs and these incidents. UEFA has been soft on the leagues. FIFA have not led by example themselves. So again, this is about an ecosystem that fails black and minority players at every single level. The collective want to blame the individuals. The individuals aren't getting examples from the collective. And so we're just continuing to have these same discussions and not see any progress at all. I don't know where to start with Tebas' statement, in all honesty. I mean, if you want to talk about La Liga fighting racism for years and you want to provide evidence of that, ask Samuel Eto'o, ask Dani Alves, ask Vinicius Jr. what has happened in the last year that maybe points to that, as opposed to just telling everybody that you're fighting racism and you've been doing so for years. Tell everybody what you've been doing. Show us some kind of evidence of that. But with no evidence, certainly within the stadiums, certainly especially as far as Vinicius Jr. is concerned, I'm not sure how you, as the head of a league, I'm not sure how you, as any right-thinking adult human being, sits down and pens that as a response to Vinicius Jr. in a moment where quite clearly, and there is evidence, yet again, of the racist abuse that he is facing, how you write that as a response. And now, once again, the game will move on. We'll talk about something else over the next couple of weeks. This will be forgotten. The league will do nothing about it until somebody goes and abuses another black player in the league again, and Tebas will probably just regurgitate that same old rhetoric. It's not convincing to anybody who's paying any attention. It's not convincing to any of the black players in the league. Tebas has to do better. I'm not sure how, but quite clearly he is not inclined to do so himself.
This is Tebas who quite happily pokes his nose in other leagues' financial affairs and voices his dismay at business models of leagues and clubs and whatnot. He's quite happy to get involved in that, even when it's not in his jurisdiction. And yet, the one thing that is a major problem under his nose, under his jurisdiction, he chooses to pretty much ignore.
Yeah.
So he's quite happy to fight a lot of battles, but he doesn't seem to want to pick a fight in this battle, that's for sure.
Ali, the sad thing was there was almost an inevitability about it when the referee made Vinicius Jr. leave the pitch as a substitute at the furthest point when he had to walk in front of those fans. And we see in these videos, these isn't a handful of fans. It is hundreds of supporters who are chanting racial abuse at Vinicius Jr. The league has to step up, doesn't it? Has to do something.
I thought we already had this conversation then following the game against Atletico Madrid, where you could hear in the stadium, a good majority of the stadium really, you could hear them chanting mono, 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 which if you don't know, it's monkey, monkey, monkey. They were already doing this to Vinicius Jr. against Atletico Madrid. And to the point that Shaka was making, that time just goes by and nothing really happens. Well, there were supposed to be fans that were going to be persecuted, right? And then early in December, a Spanish prosecutor comes out and says, no, we cannot treat this as a crime because it only happened for a few seconds. And look, it was in the middle of a maximum rivalry. It was a heated moment. So if it is for a short period of time and it is within the boundaries of a rivalry, then yeah, sure, you can be a racist. This is the message coming from a prosecutor, from the guy from a person who represents the law in Spain. So yes, we are right to focus on Tebas, but this is a society issue. If a person who represents the laws, the legal system in Spain is telling you that, look, if you're a racist for a few seconds, and if it is within the boundaries of a rivalry, it's okay, go ahead and do it. It tells you everything that you need to know as to how significant and how big of a problem this is. It's not a few people, it's not just a couple of guys in the corner. No, it's something that is well within entrenched the fan bases, and until it is addressed and until it becomes zero tolerance, it will continue to happen.
What do you do, Shay?
Easy solution is close the stand. Close the stand. If you want to get deeper into it, for every paying patron coming into that stand, donate that money to anti-racist education within that town, within that city, however you want to split it up. There's a million ways that the league can go about addressing these issues. As I say, you want a kind of simple, nobody ask any questions approach, just close the stand. That's your suspension. And you say to everybody in the league, you found guilty, we have evidence of racial abuse. The era of the silent majority is long past us. If you aren't speaking out against it, then you're guilty by association. Close the entire stand. If you weren't chanting and you're affected, well then you also need to do better. Again, you want to get a little bit more complex, you can start about enacting anti-racism education in schools, in high schools, in workplaces, around your fan base, with fan groups, however you want to do it. But just let it be meaningful. Let it be visible so that when black players suffer this kind of abuse, they feel that the league is supporting them, that is hearing their pleas, and something, even if it's a long-term proposal, something is being done.